for those of you that aren't familiar, a game came out called South of Midnight, and it was worked on by a little company called Sweet Baby Inc. And this is a game that is often heavily reliant on identity politics to sell the game. and that isn't working so well for them. So Compulsion Games, the developer that made the game, is owned by Microsoft, the same Microsoft that owns the Xbox. And what do we have going on the Xbox dashboard? Well, let's check it out. We got Pirate Nation saying Microsoft highlights Black community games. And it's not the first time they've done something like this. But I got to be honest, guys, anytime this ever happens, it's always so cringy for every group of people that they do it for. By segregating the population, it actually causes racism. Like they are actually being the racist ones by putting Black voices on a pedestal. That is inherently racist. These are the same people like, oh, give Black people the same opportunity as white people. And then they're like, oh, by the way, get rid of all the white people. Here's all the Black people, buy their games. But it's okay because marginalized, right? It's okay. Skeg says Starfield is there because space is black. I mean, I gotta be honest. When I saw Starfield on this, I was like, one of these things doesn't seem to belong here along with the other ones, but okay. And Squared Podcast says it's extra cringe when Target does it too. I think it's extra cringe when anyone does it, dude. Like every time I see this kind of stuff, it's like brutal. It's brutal. And they go on to talk about, wait, they also did it with transgender and non-binary community games. What? And they got, is that Battlefield? I don't know what those, I can't even tell what those other ones are because it's so grainy. But yikes. But yikes. Like what? Like not only that, but you gotta have, if you're a parent like I am, sincere concerns. If your kids are logging into your Xbox or logging into the Xbox that you bought for them, and on the home screen, there's this tab that says transgender and non-binary. Like that would be a question my kid would see this and would come to me and be like, Dad, what's a transgender? I want to know more about this. What's non-binary mean? I'd be like, bro, like, let's talk about people with mental illnesses in this world and why we're glad we're not them. But this is very concerning for situations where kids don't have based parents, where they might be like, oh, okay, if Microsoft is promoting this, maybe there's something here. Like people sometimes can be, and that is a genuine concern because then they indoctrinate their kids to also think a certain way. And then the kids grow up thinking that the world is a certain way when it's not. And that's really, really tragic. So there's that. And we have an update on South of Midnight. Currently, as of right now, let's refresh it. We got, they're just barely clearing 1,000 in game, which, to be honest, based off of how it started, that's better than I was expecting at this time of night. Still embarrassingly low. It's pathetically bad. And the first thing people always say that want to defend this, oh, but it's a Game Pass game. It's a Game Pass game. Yeah, okay. Again, who owns Game Pass? Microsoft. Who owns Compulsion Games? Microsoft. Who's buying Game Pass to play this game? Nobody. Who's playing this game on Game Pass? People that already pay for Game Pass. So how is additional income and revenue coming to Microsoft? Like, sure, I guess a portion of the sales percent, the way they break it down based off of hours played and downloads made and whatever they do in the background, sure, a different percentage will head over their way out of the pie that is already existing in that space. Again, this is why Game Pass is not sustainable. And when we check on Metacritic, we now finally have some user scores, which were not available before. And I want to check these tonight because yesterday it said TBD. And this is, if I had to guess, I was going to say it's probably going to be between like a 5.8 and a 6.3. Like that's what I was thinking the users would have this at. So it's not too surprising to see 6.1. That's basically exactly what I was predicting for it. But what is wild is the sheer amount of negative reviews. 49 negative reviews, which is 37% of these reviews. But I always like to check what the negative reviews are to see if they're just, oh, black person in the game, 0. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really count. You can't do that. Pretty terrible story. Buggy, generally uninteresting. Why do such games keep being made? Okay, that's not a good review. That doesn't really give you any insight. That strikes me as someone that just wants to give the game a bad review just because people said not to like the game. I want an actual like review that gives pros and cons. Okay, here we go. We got one here. Pros, soundtrack. This is a 3, by the way. Soundtrack and graphics. Okay. I'd argue the graphics aren't that great in it, but okay. Cons, boring story, repetitive combat, lame and ugly characters. Well, I mean, you said the graphics are pros, but ugly characters. Okay. Cringy dialogue and acting. What's the deal with these games these days with the voice acting, by the way? What happened to good voice acting in games? Jay Viper says the soundtrack is awful, which this guy says that's good. Lackluster puzzle solving, Sweet Baby Ink involvement, glitchy controls and frame rates, at least during my playthrough sometimes. Stop motion felt kind of rushed and lack any challenge overall. This game is a 3, with only the soundtrack and graphics being the only good part. If you have Game Pass, then play the game through that. Otherwise, it's not worth $40. I mean, honestly, that's kind of a fair review. I mean, the 3 seems a little bit harsh, but okay. Fair review. This one, 0, diverse, delivers a disappointing mess. Art direction is questionable. I mean, you can't give it a 0. Don't give games zeros. That's why it's like it makes the game for user reviews not legitimate. If you just go 0 because Sweet Baby Ink involvement, it's like okay, fair if you hate Sweet Baby Ink, but just as a game, is it a good game or not? And Skeg says okay, a 1. But then the zeros make up for the 10s, where it's like, oh, here we go, a 10. Being from the South myself, I love this game. I love how I see the Southern culture and the atmosphere that is in this game. Live the story, art style, music, and gameplay. This game is a masterpiece. This is a must play. Okay, that's just as bad as the zeros. So I think when it comes to the user reviews, it's just a general sentiment of if people like the studio or not, and if they want to boycott the game and they want other people to boycott it or not. Which is kind of unfortunate, but ironically, the way it always seems to filter its way out kind of ends up being the score the game should be anyways. Allegedly. I have not played it myself. I've watched Kata play it. I've watched Var Dark play it, and it didn't strike me as anything particularly exciting or interesting. And it's definitely not a game that I would pay $40 for. Now, I did ask for a review code from Compulsion Games, which, if you guys did not hear, they politely declined my request by rejecting it, which I thought was funny. I'm sure when they saw my email with info@smashjt come through, they probably had a good laugh at the office before they ultimately were like, nope, he's not getting one, which is kind of funny because I wanted one because I genuinely wanted to play it for my audience and give an honest take on it. But apparently they're like, no, can't trust him to give us a good review, so don't give it to him. Jay Viber says Pikachu rejected you. Most likely. I don't know who's in charge of approving codes or not there, but community manager may have something to do with it. Tiger King says, I would give it a 0. To me, a compromised game is a 0 value. It's true. I mean, if that's how you feel, if that's how you rate a game, if that's how you review the game, that's fair. Like, I don't think people are allowed to really criticize that. I'm just saying, like, the way I would approach it is trying to be removing all the external stuff and just play the game for the game and see if it's actually good or not. But no, the way the studios treated me, I'm like, yeah, no, I got other games to play. I don't need to play this one. So that is South of Midnight, and we had 1,006 playing. So let's see it dip below 1,000 here. Ready? Here we go. There it is, 998, and dropping. Game peaked at 1,400 people, and it looks like that is going to be the max. It might get a slight bump over the weekend. It might, but I don't know. As far as the fallout from this game is concerned, I don't necessarily see it taking any kind of gigantic jump here. Again, if you have Game Pass, you might give it a shot, but you're not going to go out and run and buy Game Pass to play this game, which is the ultimate downfall for it. Master TDS says, you mean they didn't send you an Xbox for talking about them? Oh, we'll talk about that later tonight for sure. That was a good one. All right, let me go on to the next topic, because that one was wild.